Greetings. You have landed at Words Move Poetry. I am Ruby Body. This session we'll be exploring fear and loss as a springboard to your poetic expression. Fear and loss, two things that most of us have been through this past almost 2 years. As a nation, we have gone through a great deal of loss, and we all have our experiences with fears. I decided on the topic for this session because last week, the week of October 17th, there were two events that were announced on the news. The first was the death, the transition of General Colin Powell, the first Black American to have been appointed as Secretary of State. The second was a joyous occasion. That is the award of the Ruth Lilly Prize for a lifetime contribution to poetry. The award was awarded to Patricia Smith, that phenomenal voice who comes out of Chicago. So let us take a look at loss and fear. I was not familiar with the career of General Colin Powell, but when he was appointed as a Secretary of State, I took a moment to feel proud. Not because I knew about him. As I said, I was not familiar with his career. The thing that struck me was that he had climbed to the position as a child of immigrants. I too am a child of immigrants. And General Powell's parents came from the part of the world that my parents came from, the Caribbean. I myself was born in the Caribbean, but I migrated quite early in life and returned and came back. The usual journey. But the story is the story of the power of being yourself wherever you land. The power of basking in your personal power wherever you land. So at this moment, I want to take a pause in respect to the family of General Colin Powell. We remember him. Now, in terms of fear, in her acceptance speech following the award of the Ruth Lilly Prize to her, Ms. Smith mentioned several people and several events, glad events, sad events, that influenced her poetry, her art, her soul. One of the mentions particularly struck me. She mentioned a young boy in grade school, she's a teacher as well, who sat at the back of her class. He lived poetry, but he was afraid to write it. He lived poetry, but he was afraid to write it. I thought that was so magnanimous, so rich. And it is an indication of why Miss Smith is such a powerful poet and teacher. Her power of observation. In that case, She had observed the soul of a child, yet unformed, yet fully formed, I should say, but struggling with how he should step into the world, how he should step into his power. And he was afraid. I want to share a quick story about one of my experiences with loss. About 9 years ago, my contract was not renewed. I had been in a job for 19 years, and it was decided that my contract would not be renewed, and I took it personally. But as I said, that was 9 years ago, and in the interim, I did lots of things that made me thrive. But in 2020, when I decided to begin a practice of daily walking meditations, I walked into that loss of a job, the emotion that was there arising out of the loss of a job that I thought defined me. I was not surprised that there was the remnant of the loss that I was carrying around, but I didn't understand, I didn't know the sheer weight of it. I didn't know that it occupied such a large space inside of me. And once I realized that, I resolved to do something about it, and I took pen and paper out and I started to write. And the first words that hit the paper were angry words. And it immediately made me realize that while I had done lots of activities in the interim period, I had not confronted this loss. I had merely covered it over. I had pasted it over with busyness. Now that is something that most of us can relate to, because we want to move on, we get busy, and we don't deal with whatever trauma that we experienced. Out of that came a poem which I called Exorcism. And I will read it to you in a short while. The other part of this session, the fear part, is something that we are all familiar with as well. In the Caribbean, we call it that boogeyman. That's something that we are scared of, whether it is the being afraid to speak our truth, being afraid to try something new, being afraid to leave something old, all kinds of fears that we have. And I celebrate Miss Smith for making that young man a part of her acceptance of this prestigious award that was made to her. I will now share with you Exorcism. Drip, drop, chakras blocked, emotions burrow, fester, deep. Breathe, unburden, exorcise, shroud, and veil, and shame. Choose the sun, breathe life, unburden, exorcise, be shrewd, wary, grief's a thief, unburden, bitter for better, breathe. Exorcise, claim your umami, ball, raw, pelt that shoe, honey, breathe sugar, spice or gall, reclaim it all. breathe, exercise until you do you. Thank you for listening. I hope that you write your comments in the comments section below. Tell me a little about your fears, your loss. Let us walk this journey together. Like and subscribe and turn on your notifications. And until next Sunday, enjoy your poetic life. This is Words Move Poetry. Peace out.